This video shows how to do trochoidal milling with VectorCAM 16. First, I'm going to draw a region that's going to contain my milling operations because I really don't want to mill all the stock away. I just want to go around once because I'm going to cut all the way through. So I do that by selecting all surfaces and then doing a 2D region. I'm going to offset it 1 inch to make this big enough so that you can see what it's doing, and I'm going to project it 1.5 inches above my 0 point so we can see it. So all my milling operations are going to be contained within that geometry. Okay, so I'm going to deselect that. Now to do the milling operations, I'm using milling 3D. I go to my Z constant. I select my tool. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch end mill. I'm going to start at 1 inch because my material is 1 inch thick. My depth I'm going to set to 0 because I want to cut all the way through. And my step I'm going to do 1/4 inch per pass, step in Z. These options down here is where you set this. If you just do an offset, it's just going to do the regular routine where it just keeps offsetting until it's done, and then parallel just does zigzags. Of course, the problem with that is the first cut you're going to be going full diameter of the cutter, which is what we're trying to avoid with the trochoidal milling. And then adaptive, though, will start in the center and it'll keep an even spacing between all of the passes, and that'll end up making a trochoidal pass the way I have this defined here. Alright, there's a couple things you have to do to get this to work. First, you have to use the containment. Like I said, otherwise it would be milling the entire thing, which would work. It'd just be a big waste of time, though. So I'm going to set my containment. I'm going to put a check mark in here to use 2D containment. And then there's some options in here, whether you want to be to the inside of the containment, the outside, or the center. I'm going to do inside with 0 offset and say OK. And then I have to select my geometries. So I select geometry. First, the surfaces I want to machine. Well, it's just going to be the whole thing, so I select all surfaces, hit OK, hit enter. And then containment is our containment path that we drew. And then hit enter. And the stock, that's going to be this box stock that I drew. And then hit enter. And then when we say OK, it will calculate the tool path for us. Okay, so now we have our trochoidal tool path. I like these spiral ramps in, so that's kind of my default. So it's going to spiral in here, and then it's going to do the trochoidal milling all the way around the whole thing. It's a little hard to see all of the paths because there are so many of them. You can kind of see here that that's what it's doing. It's going to come around like this and go around like that, and it's just going to keep on following that shape. But it's more obvious when we run the simulator. So I'm going to run the external simulator. Alright, slow it down a little bit so we can see what's going on, and run the simulation. And we can speed it up, of course. And we can shut the toolpath off so you can see this. Slope down in here. So that's the simulation. The thing that's nice about this is that you can go back to the drawing, and if you decide that you don't really want to be cutting a path this wide to go around here, for example, then you can just change the parameters. So I can go back to my drawing. And all I really need to do is change my containment line and then regenerate it. So the way I would do that is I could just go back to my thing here. I mean, select all surfaces, do my region 2D, and say I only want to offset it 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch. Now I have a new containment line, and then I can go into my job here, change parameters, go to geometry, change the containment, shut this one off, turn this one on, accept that, and then say OK. Push recalculate all modified jobs right here. You can see that our trochoidal patterns are now contained within the new containment, and they're much smaller. And just for fun, we'll simulate that again. And now we'll run the simulation. You can see now it has a much smaller toolpath. Let's go generate the program. So back in here, all I have to do is click on Generate NC from Jobs and select my post processor from the list. And you can see it's generated the entire program all at once. It has all of the speeds and feeds that were put in the tool library included, and all the tool changes in the order that the jobs were selected, and this should be ready to run. That concludes this video. Thank you for watching.